We like to think science has all the answers. We assume that if we ask a physicist how the universe works, they will give us a straight answer involving math and logic. Unfortunately, reality is held together by duct tape and hope. Sometimes, when you look too closely at the rules of the universe, they simply stop making sense. We call these paradoxes. They are the moments when logic trips over its own shoelaces and falls flat on its face. Let's explore the glitches in the matrix that make smart people question their own sanity. The universe is old, really old. It is also huge. Statistically, there should be billions of Earth-like planets out there. Even if life is rare, the sheer numbers suggest the galaxy should be teeming with civilizations. We should be dodging alien traffic on our way to Mars. So, where is everyone? This is the Fermi Paradox. If aliens exist, they should be here by now. Maybe they colonized the galaxy millions of years ago. Maybe they are broadcasting loud radio signals. Yet, when we point our telescopes at the sky, we hear absolutely nothing. Just silence. There are a few explanations for this, and none of them are comforting. One theory suggests that intelligent life destroys itself before it can leave its home planet. Basically, they discover nuclear power and immediately blow themselves up. Another theory is the zoo hypothesis. This implies the aliens are watching us right now, treating Earth like a nature preserve for primitive, violent monkeys. They don't talk to us for the same reason you don't try to discuss philosophy with a raccoon. We are simply too dumb to be worth the long-distance call. The identity crisis boat, the Ship of Theseus. This one sits on the border of philosophy and science. Imagine a wooden ship belonging to the hero Theseus. Over time, the wood rots. You replace a plank. A month later, you replace the mast. Over 50 years, you replace every single piece of wood, every nail, and every sail. Is it still the same ship? If you say yes, consider this. What if someone gathered all the old, rotten pieces you threw away and built a second ship? Which one is the real Ship of Theseus? The one with the new parts or the one with the original parts? This applies to humans too. Your cells die and are replaced constantly. The you from 10 years ago is physically gone. You are a walking Ship of Theseus, constantly being repaired. It raises the uncomfortable question of whether you are actually the same person who started watching this video, or just a copy carrying the same memories. The suicide by ancestor, the grandfather paradox. Time travel sounds fun until you try to do anything. The most famous headache in temporal mechanics involves you, a time machine, and your grandfather. Let's say you travel back in time to when your grandfather was young and single. For the sake of this thought experiment, you kill him. I don't know why. Maybe he gave you bad birthday gifts. Now that he is dead, he cannot meet your grandmother. Therefore, your father is never born. Consequently, you are never born. But here's the problem. If you were never born, you never existed to build a time machine. If you didn't build the time machine, you didn't go back to your grandfather. So he lives.
Nice.
He has a child, and eventually, you are born. You then build a time machine to go back and kill him. The universe is trapped in an infinite loop of and resurrection. Causality breaks down completely. Some physicists argue that the universe would simply prevent you from pulling the trigger. The gun would jam, or you would slip on a banana peel. Essentially, the timeline protects itself from your stupidity. The zombie cat box. Quantum mechanics is basically magic with better PR. Erwin Schrödinger wanted to show how ridiculous it is. So he came up with a hypothetical scenario involving a cat, a flask of poison, and a radioactive source inside a sealed box. If the monitor detects radiation, the flask shatters, poisoning the cat. If not, the cat lives. According to the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, until you open the box to check, the atom has both decayed and not decayed. Therefore, the cat is both dead and alive at the same time. Schrödinger intended this to be a joke. He wanted to demonstrate how absurd it is to apply quantum rules to everyday objects. Instead, everyone took him seriously. Now we have to accept the possibility that reality doesn't choose an outcome until we look at it. The universe is rendering graphics only when you turn your head. Somewhere a cat is suspended in a state of animated death just because a physicist is too afraid to open a cardboard box. The infinite hotel nightmare. Imagine a hotel with an infinite number of rooms, and every single room is occupied. A new guest arrives and asks for a room. In a normal hotel, the manager would say no. In the infinite hotel, the manager says, "Sure, let me just ruin everyone's night." The manager asks the guest in room 1 to move to room 2. The guest in room 2 moves to room 3. Everyone moves from room N to room N plus 1. Since there are infinite rooms, everyone has a new space, and room 1 is now empty for the new guy. It gets worse. An infinite bus arrives with infinite passengers. The manager tells everyone to move to the room number that is double their current number. Room 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 4, 3 goes to 6. Now, all the odd-numbered rooms are empty, and the infinite new guests can move in. Mathematically, this works. Logically, it feels like a scam. Infinity is not a number. It is a concept that allows hotel managers to torture their guests with endless room swaps. The tortoise wins every time. Zeno's Dichotomy Paradox. Greek philosopher Zeno argued that movement is actually impossible. Let's say you want to walk to the fridge to get a snack. Before you can get there, you have to walk halfway. Before you can walk the remaining half, you have to walk half of that distance, then half of that. You can divide the distance infinitely. There is always a smaller half to cross. According to Zeno, you will never actually reach the fridge. You will just get infinitely close to it while starving to death. Obviously, in the real world, we move all the time. But mathematically, Zeno had a point that took centuries to resolve with calculus. He effectively trolled the entire ancient world by proving that technically an arrow shot at a target never actually hits it. It just hovers really, really close. The unwritten masterpiece, the Bootstrap Paradox. Let's go back to time travel, because one headache wasn't enough. Imagine you are a huge fan of Beethoven. You build a time machine and travel to the 18th century to meet him. When you arrive, you discover Beethoven doesn't exist, or maybe he's just a terrible musician who never wrote anything good. You can't let the world lose his music, so you take your iPod, copy down all of Beethoven's symphonies, and publish them under his name. You become the successful Beethoven. History stays on track. But here's the question: who wrote the music? You copied it from Beethoven in the future, but Beethoven copied it from the future you brought back. The music exists without ever having been created by anyone. The symphony just appeared out of thin air. This implies that information can exist without a creator, which is offensive to anyone who has ever tried to write an original script. The anti-aging space scam, the twin paradox. Einstein's theory of special relativity tells us that time is relative. It moves differently depending on how fast you are going. This leads to the twin paradox. Take two identical twins. One stays on Earth, the other gets into a spaceship and flies at near the speed of light to a distant star and comes back. For the twin on Earth, 50 years might have passed. They are old, gray, and complaining about back pain. For the twin in the spaceship, only a few years have passed. They return looking young and fresh. This isn't a biological trick. Time physically moved slower for the traveler. But relativity says motion is relative. From the spaceship's perspective, Earth was the one moving away at light speed. So, technically, the Earth twin should be the younger one. The resolution involves acceleration and changing frames of reference, but the core idea remains disturbing. You can literally outlive your entire generation just by driving really fast. The light switch glitch. Olbers Paradox. Look up at the night sky. It's dark. That seems obvious, but if the universe is infinite and static, and there are infinite stars, then every line of sight should eventually end on a star. No matter where you look, your eye should hit a sun. The entire night sky should be as bright as the surface of the sun, blinding us instantly. There should be no darkness, only searing, blinding light. So why is it dark? The answer suggests terrifying things about our universe. Either the universe is not infinite or it had a beginning, the Big Bang, meaning light from distant stars hasn't reached us yet. Or the universe is expanding so fast that the light is getting stretched into invisibility. Basically, the only reason we can sleep at night is that the universe is running away from us. Science tries to organize the chaos, but sometimes it just uncovers more chaos. If you enjoyed having your brain completely dismantled, hit that like button. Subscribe for more existential dread disguised as entertainment. See you in the next one.